My friend Ricky will tell you that he had some sacks that he didn't get credit for because it wasn't an official stat at that time. And of course, the non-strike game reference applied to 2 years, 82 and 87. And in 1987, the Saints had a field day sacking a quarterback for the Chicago Bears at Soldier Field. That quarterback was Sean Payton. That's right, Payton, the strike quarterback for the Bears, which is why, of course, he got into coaching. Ken Trahan, sportsNOLAtv. It's Toyota of New Orleans, and it's a great place for a great deal. You need to come by today and jump right in. The New Orleans Saints get their first win of the season as they defeat the Dallas Cowboys 26-20 on Sunday Night Football, and they snapped a 6-game home losing streak. Drew Brees, he got it done, and of course the game-winning touchdown pass to C.J. Spiller, a milestone, his 400 touchdown pass, and he had a milestone earlier in the game as well in terms of yards. So it was a memorable night for Brees, a memorable night for Saints fans. Anytime you win on Sunday Night Football is special. Anytime you beat the Dallas Cowboys is special, Brian, because there is a sense of a rivalry there and a national following for the Cowboys.
Absolutely, and in addition to the Saints snapping a 6-game losing streak at home, Kenny, the Cowboys had won 10 consecutive road games, which is a pretty good stat in today's NFL. And so, yeah, I mean, it was a much-needed win. Doesn't matter how they won it, they had to come away with a win.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, just looking at the Cowboys, the Saints couldn't afford the loss. Cowboys, they're still they're 2-2, so it was better for them to lose than us.
I agree. You know, when you look at Carolina and Atlanta, they knew what they had to do coming into last night's game because both teams had won earlier and remain undefeated in the division. And I know we'll get to that, but they knew what they had to do, and they took care of business, Kenny.
They did, and this was really a strange game because it was all broken up into parts. It started off where Dallas gashed the Saints running the ball, and then in between, the Saints defense I thought was very good.
Yeah.
But then at the very end, they give up a 91-yard drive through the air, and their secondary totally broke down to allow the Cowboys to tie it. So kind of weird defensively, good for the most part, not good when it mattered. And then, of course, they won the coin toss, and that was most important to get the ball in overtime. And you go back and look at the game-winning play, Brian, and Dallas was confused. I'm surprised they didn't take a timeout when you saw their defenders running around, looking at each other. Drew Brees picked up on it immediately, had a good formation, spotted Spiller with the matchup, and loved it against an inexperienced linebacker.
Yeah, I mean, he had to be salivating, Kenny, when you look out there. He couldn't have gotten the ball soon enough to get the ball to Spiller. And finally, you know, we can see what Spiller can do when you do get him the ball. And I know that Payton was trying to do it more often during the game, and it came at a very opportune time.
Well, this was, of course, an overtime victory via a long touchdown in overtime. And when you look at the numbers, well, the longest plays in NFL history in overtime, check out where it is. It's on the list. It made the list at number 6. The longest, 99 yards. You can't get any longer than that. Jaws to Quick. And then, of course, you see names like Garrison Hurst and Teddy Bridgewater, Tom Brady, and Brett Favre on that list. So pretty special stuff. But this was a big play, Ricky. And as Brian said, it's great to see one of the guys they invested in making a play because it's been tough. Brandon Browner hasn't distinguished himself yet. Jarris Byrd hasn't distinguished himself yet. Donnell Ellerbe hasn't distinguished himself yet. So it was good to see a guy in Spiller who was an investment making a play.
Well, you know, you always know he had the potential, you know, but the injuries have been keeping him off the field. But now you see what he can do. And you can't isolate him on a linebacker one-on-one because he's too fast. And plus, when he get the running speed and you trying to keep up with him as a linebacker, he's going to beat you every trip. So only thing that guy can do was just trail him like he did and look at him run because he could never catch up with him.
It was really a perfect storm. You got him on a linebacker and a slow-arriving safety to help out. And, you know, defensively, I went into the locker room after the ball game, talked to some of those defensive players, the guys that Kenny was talking about, Donnell Ellerbe, Jarris Byrd, and Keenan Lewis coming back, okay? Now, granted, this is one win. There's still 3 games back in the division. I'm not ready to talk playoffs yet, Ricky, but if you get those 3 guys back, at least you're going to get an indication of what their defense can be, Kenny, if they are healthy.
And then now, you know, you're going up to Philadelphia this week, and they got Malcolm Jenkins and Stroll, and them. They got some of your ex-players who you're going to face, so you know they're going to be trying to beat you. And so now this is another good game this week, so there's a very important game coming up.
Ricky, you read up on Philadelphia, and you think the Saints have problems? They've got major problems in Philadelphia under Chip Kelly. And look, the Saints defense, this is a perfect tonic, I think, for the Saints defense, because that offensive front for Philadelphia is revamped, rebuilt, injury-riddled, and they're not doing anything that Chip Kelly wants to accomplish with that offense. So I think it bodes well for the Saints.
Well, they want to play fast, and you have to have the players to play fast. I'm not sure Sam Bradford is the answer at quarterback, and I think that's part of the problem. If you don't have the most important player, Ricky, you're not going to win. And we've seen that in Miami, where they invested in Ryan Tannehill, and it cost a coach his job because he's not that guy.
Yeah, and I tell you what they did wrong with that situation. Really, my thing is he didn't look like he was a great quarterback anyhow. So you see a lot of teams now, the same thing, if we look at San Francisco. They're getting a quarterback that don't fit their system. So that's the whole thing happening. And Kelly, he don't have a quarterback. You know what I mean? He don't have a running quarterback, and that's what he needs. He got a pocket passer, so it's tough to run that system.
I think that when it comes to the NFL, it's all about the quarterback position. If you have the quarterback, you win. If you don't, it's going to be tough to win. The New Orleans Saints have that guy, and Drew Brees reached yet another milestone, actually two in the game, but one that was very significant when you look at the touchdown passes in the history of the NFL. Brees at 400 is number 5, only one behind his contemporary, Tom Brady. Peyton Manning, of course, the leader and continuing to build on that. Brett Favre, second, Dan Marino, third, a very reachable number for Drew Brees. And clearly, Brian, when you're in that group of players, you're an elite player, and Drew Brees has been an elite player for a long time.
Well, I think he just adds to his resume, his Hall of Fame resume, guys. I mean, we're seeing a Hall of Fame quarterback, and he may be nearing the end of his career, but he's still a very productive and efficient quarterback.
Ricky, as a defensive player, you had to be pleased with some of the young players on defense in this game for the Saints. Bobby Richardson, Tyler Davison, Haoli Kikaha, Stephon Anthony in particular.
Yeah, I liked the linebackers yesterday as a whole. I mean, I think those guys, they really was flying around making great plays and stuff. But just looking at the whole game plan, I just think that the Saints caught the Cowboys at the right time, because the Cowboys, the Saints didn't throw any ball over 20 yards. Everything was from 20 yards back in, and they just got a chance to, you know, pick them apart. So that lets you know that the Saints hit them at the right time. I
agree totally with you, Ricky, about catching them at the right time. Romo's injured, Des Bryant's injured. Greg Hardy comes back in a week, I think, and they get another defensive player back from a suspension, so they caught him at a great time.
Well, they did, but you know, it is what it is. The Saints had a bunch of injuries too, including a Drew Brees who was less than 100%. So nobody feels sorry for you when you have injuries. You simply have to overcome adversity. The Saints were able to do that in this game, and I thought there were a lot of bright spots. Willie Snead's a guy that looks like they can depend on. He runs good routes, and he catches the ball, Brian.
Yeah, I agree. And look, as long as Cooks is struggling to separate, Willie Snead gives you a better vertical answer than any of them right now, in my opinion.
Yeah, and speaking of Cooks, and you know, he's not a bad player.
No.
And it's too early, but he doesn't look like a #1 receiver in this league, Ricky. He's a guy that's small, is not creating separation, and he's not getting yards after the catch. Typically, you know, he'll slide down or lay down, and I'm not saying that to be critical, but that's what we've seen so far.
Well, a guy like that, you know, you really don't have the quarterback to get him the ball at 40, 50 yards down the field. You know, Drew can't get him the ball. And a guy like that, you have to put in motion and create spots for him to go. Off the jam, he's a young cat, and he can't get off the jam as well, so people put their hands on him controlling. But he's a guy that you can put in motion and get to running, and he'll create a lot of problems. But he's a downfield guy.
Yeah, you know, he's a slot guy in my mind, Rick.
Right.
I mean, you know what? He's a Wes Welker type of guy or something. You know, put him in motion, put him in the slot, give him the ball quickly, and let him do his thing in space.
Nice to see tight ends contributing. Benjamin Watson, Josh Hill both making plays.
Yeah, I think they blocked well yesterday. You know, a lot of people don't realize Saints running game was pretty good yesterday.
The second half.
And especially on the goal line and stuff. And Ingram ran the ball a lot better than he's been running the ball inside. So he made a couple of people miss something he don't usually do. So the running game showed up. Drew Brees showed up with the short passing game and took control of the game.
We are here today at Toyota of New Orleans on the I-10 Service Road in New Orleans East. Today's Sports NOLA TV brought to you by Premier Automotive's Toyota of New Orleans. And at Premier, you'll get a reliable and stylish new or used car at a price you can afford with Premier's expansive inventory of new and used cars. Find your dream car. As you can see throughout the showroom here and in the parking lot, there are many beautiful cars waiting for you to take home. Toyota of New Orleans. Back to talk NFL in just a moment as Sports NOLA TV continues.